Okay. Mary Lynn, it's so great to have you share with our church. I really thank you for doing that. Um, for those of us who did not know your husband, Stuart, how would you describe him to us?
Um, Stuart was he was a very godly man, but that's not the right word. He was a godly man who was very fun. I don't want to say life of the party, but kind of life of the party. He was definitely an extrovert, and something that I was immediately attracted to was just were those things. Like he had a great sense of humor, and he also loved the Lord, and he pushed me to pursue the Lord, and he challenged me, and we were a great fit. We were a team, and he was my best friend, and he was also just so fun to be with. So he wasn't just a great husband and father of girls; he was a great friend too.
Yeah. So, as much as you feel comfortable, tell us what happened in that series of events or whatever that changed your life. Can you tell us a little bit about that day?
Yeah. So Stuart and I love to ski together. That was something we did as a couple, and we would often go out to Colorado and ski. On spring break a few years ago, we decided to take our girls with us because they hadn't skied a lot. They'd never skied out west. So we took them to Beaver Creek. And on our last day skiing, Stuart, who was a great skier, got in an accident. We don't really know what happened because no one was with him specifically when it happened. But I just knew that I got word that he had been in an accident, and I asked what had happened, and they said, "We're doing CPR right now." And I just immediately, that was the first thing that just changed my life. I felt like, oh my gosh, here I am out in Colorado on vacation with my family, and I'm going to go home a widow. That's all I could think about. I had no idea any circumstances, but that was all I could think of right then. And, I also was telling myself what I knew to be true. God can heal him. This, like all the things in my mind were going crazy. Like God can change this. I don't need to believe anything that's not true. And, but that was what happened. We ended up in Denver at the hospital, and within 24 to 36 hours of the accident, I was having to make very difficult life and death decisions for my family.
Yeah.
And um, a lot of our friends came in town. I mean, so much happened in so little time. It was unreal how quickly things changed. And we basically, said goodbye to him and were in the room with him when he passed. And the coolest thing about actually being there is that in the end, we were playing worship music, and I was in the room with my girls. I have three daughters, and his mother and his three sisters. And after we knew that he was kind of losing consciousness, he had not spoken since the accident or given any sign that he was aware of anything. His arms started raising up at the very end, and it was sweet, yet it was really scary at the same time. But my mother-in-law was like, he's meeting Jesus, he's meeting Jesus. It was very miraculous, and
Mhm.
his arms were very strongly going up. Anyway, that was just an aside, but that was a sweet picture of just him meeting the Lord.
Yeah. What about that experience for you is different than, say, someone who does not have faith? I mean, can you put in context what it means to know there is, as much as your heart is filled with sorrow, there is comfort in that when you have faith, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. What did that mean for you during that entire process?
Well, that I don't know how comforting that was for me in that time.
Yeah.
That was a very intensely emotional, hard few, days, hours. And um I was, I don't know how comforting. I could say after the fact, and having lived, 2.5 years of life, I can answer that question a lot better.
Yeah.
But even in that time, I told my girls, we drove from Vail to Denver. He was helicoptered and we drove. And I told the girls in the car, I said, I don't really know what we're walking into here. I don't know if he's going to be someone who's paralyzed and needs care for the rest of his life. I don't know if he's going to live through this. But I do know that whatever happens, this is something the Lord had for us. He chose this for us, and I don't know why, and I don't understand, but we're just going to walk into this with that mindset. And so I think that's kind of just how I walked into the hospital in Denver, knowing
Yeah.
this is what the Lord has for me for some reason. And he's good. I know he's good. And so, and he has been, he's been so good. He's been very faithful.
Were there, I know that grieving is both an instant thing and also a lengthy process, and something like this is going to be with you the rest of your life. In this process, as you're leaning on the Lord for comfort and strength, um, any real big thing that you've learned about yourself, or something that surprised you in your feelings, your emotion, your thoughts, uh, as you've been in this grieving process?
I think I've recognized my identity a lot more. And not just that I'm a child of God and I'm beloved by him. I knew those things, but I think just recognizing that he is my husband. Like redemption in this situation is not going to be me getting remarried, or um the redemption in this is just knowing that Stuart is with Jesus and one day I'll be with Jesus. I guess I did not know when I mentioned my identity. I've learned so much about my own how I'm made and how I'm a doer, and I've faced a lot of hard things that I didn't know that I would be able to face. I really, when the accident happened, and I kind of mentioned how I thought I'm going to be going home a widow, I've struggled with so much anxiety in my past. And I thought, I'm going to be curled up in a ball on my bed for the foreseeable future. This is going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to me. How am I going to live? And yet, I've never struggled with anxiety through this whole situation. It's like the Lord just gave me this immeasurable peace that that's just gotten me through it. And I've been able to pass that to my kids and to share with them that, there's still hope. There's hope in the midst of this. It really stinks. It's no fun to be a single mom. It's no fun to be a girl who doesn't have their dad when all their friends have their dads. So it really does stink. I don't want to gloss over that and act like everything's hunky dory. However, um, there is so much purpose in the pain, and there is so much, I really resonated with all the pain to purpose. He makes beauty from ashes, turns graves into gardens. Those types of oxymoronic phrases have really been a lot more real to me in this time, that because he really does. He's taken very hard circumstances and really given me great hope.
What was the process like in you want to have your own time to work through your emotions, to pray, to kind of process all that's happening with you, but your girls also need you. Um, you know, you're their mother, they need you in this time as well. What was that dynamic like? Or was that a struggle, difficult, or whatever? What was your experience with that?
My girls, when the accident happened, they were 12, 12, 14, and 16. And so, um, I'm really grateful that I didn't have little babies that I was having to just care for, and that they could take care of themselves, and they had established friendships that were supporting to them. Um, I've That really hasn't been a huge challenge. I mean, I've been able to get away. I've been able to grieve in ways I needed to grieve, and have not necessarily felt like I've had to manage them per se.
Mhm.
Um, it's burdensome to manage other people's grief and feel responsible for their grief. But I
Mhm.
have, and I feel like that is part of my role as their mom,
Yeah.
is to shepherd them through it. So I do wonder if, one day when I'm an empty nester, will I really start to grieve then? Will that change?
Mhm.
Because there's still times that I feel like I haven't really grieved his death like maybe I would have if I did. I feel so responsible for my children that I feel like even the whole time of all these hard decisions I was making in Colorado, I'm thinking really they're at the forefront of my mind. Like I didn't want to stay there too long. I wanted to get back home. I felt like I don't want memories of Colorado that are negative. We've gone back out to Beaver Creek twice since he died there to kind of face our fears and not have negative connotations with that place, a place we loved. Um, so I don't feel like that's been that hard. And I'm not an emotional, I'm not super emotional.
Mhm.
And so I don't cry a lot when I say that. I have emotions. Obviously, I'm emotional, but I'm not very outwardly expressive with my emotions. And so I think my children have kind of learned from that. I'm not saying that that's good or bad, but I don't feel like we're outwardly grieving a lot or that I'm managing a lot of that at my house.
Yeah. So just a moment of transparency here. I have not seen you since high school, and I'm just a guy you had a class with. I've gotten to know your family a little bit, and I think they're great. And it took me, I think, about 8 years before I connected the dots. It's like, wait a minute. So, um, but I myself was traveling. I remember this. I was out of town. We had a lot of experience going out to Colorado because my brother-in-law and sister-in-law lived in the Denver area quite a bit. Um, and I just scroll through Facebook. I'm a pastor. I care about people's lives and stories. I'm just looking at pictures, and I was just so struck by what was going on in your life. And even though not really having a connection with you or anything, I was definitely moved by it. Felt so much sympathy and compassion for you. But your post and the days and months and years afterward, I just found to be so powerful. Um, I am certain that there are a lot of people who have gotten encouragement from them. For someone who has been through great loss, maybe they've questioned their faith, maybe they ask, why me? Any of those things. What do you believe your message is to people who are walking through some form of similar experience?
Hope. I think that's the biggest word I would say. And that's the post that I said, that was the word I used. We have hope. We have great hope. When I said that he had died, I was updating, but when I posted that he had actually passed, I mentioned hope, and I still feel like hope is kind of my word. And the encouragement is that, like I said, it's not hope that life will be perfect or life will be good, but I do feel like the best is yet to come. I just think God's using this in such a bigger way than we could ever imagine. And it's kind of like when I heard somebody use this analogy one time. It's like when the author writes a book, he knows the ending and he's writing the story leading up to this ending of this great story. And we don't know what he has for us, but I know it's good. And I just feel like if you're going through a hard time, whether, whatever the level of it is, I I don't want it to sound trite, but I just think God's using all things for his good and his glory if you love him and are following after him, chasing after him. One thing I didn't mention that has been a huge blessing to my family is our community. And our church community, as an encouragement to your church, like just the body of Christ has poured out for us. And I will say that my family, Stuart and I, we poured into other people and we are reaping the benefits of being poured into. And we're still pouring out, but I mean, being, it's hard to receive a lot of care. I still have two elders at our church. Our church is huge and has lots of elders. So two of these guys still send a meal to me every other week. They text me and they say, "Hey, what do you want this week?" And it is just, it's such a huge blessing just to still feel seen and known, even 2.5 years later, because you think they're fine, they're doing okay. They're getting used to their situation. And anyway, the community of my own church, but the people at our school, the people like you who know my parents. I mean, I just am so blessed by the prayers and the support. So thank you for even wanting to.